Well, for the latest on what today's announcement might bring, we're joined by Simon French, the Chief Economist at Panmure Gordon. Good morning to you. So the headlines seem alarming in the sense that this is the biggest hike that we've seen in 3 decades. And yet this is clearly an attempt to try and get a grip of the high inflation that the country is experiencing. Is this the right move, do you think, from the Bank of England?
It's the right move, but let's not kid ourselves. It's not the move they want to be making. This is inflation that's come largely from, not exclusively, but largely from events in international oil markets. And they're trying to bring inflation down by, bluntly, trying to push up UK inflation. That's a pretty uncomfortable mix for an politically independent central bank that's making decisions that are intensely political, but with inflation running at 10% and probably going to increase further up towards 11% before it starts to come down, they really have no choice in this scenario.
Will it be 0.75%? A lot of betting on this.
Yes.
The Fed was 0.75%.
That's right. All the major central banks have been going with that number. The market sees a 97% likelihood. It would be a big surprise if they deviated from that path. Although, to be fair to the Bank of England, given the volatility in the last 6-7 weeks we've seen in the UK economy, to actually get the market to be so consensus on a single path is actually quite an achievement. They've managed to do that at a time when, in the immediate aftermath of the budget, back in the end of September, we were seeing 1.5% increases in bank rates. So half that level. But the fact that the market's coalesced around a number, no mean feat, actually.
OK, a bit of stability in that sense. We know that this autumn statement is going to be now, I think, 17th of November.
That's right, yes.
That meant that the Monetary Policy Committee couldn't see the OBR forecast, which was so important in trying to control volatility when we had the trust budget. How much will that be a problem, do you think, in all of this?
Not a problem per se, as in they meet again in 6 weeks' time. But what they will do is they'll want to minimise the amount of surprises, because what they don't want to do is surprise the market, take a different path, either raise by less or raise by more, and set hares running when things are going to change in 2 weeks' time. We don't know the magnitude. We don't know how much Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt are going to change what's known as the fiscal mix, tax and spending in the UK, which is very, very relevant for what happens on interest rates. We don't know that amount. So to some extent, the Bank of England will have to be in a holding pattern, minimise the uncertainty, and then meet again in 6 weeks' time and respond to that information. The sequencing is not perfect, but it's not terrible either.
Okay.
Front page of the Times is suggesting today another windfall tax on the energy companies. Would you be surprised if they don't go down that route?
I'd be surprised if they don't go down that route.
It'd be popular too.
This is the thing. Look, I think when he was Chancellor, Rishi Sunak didn't want to do a windfall tax because he wanted to encourage a lot of the oil and gas companies to do investment, both in existing oil and gas capacity, but also on renewables. But politically, he's very exposed, I think, in an environment where even some of the oil and gas majors are saying this is not going to change our investment decisions. If you look at all the other politically unpopular things he might have to do to try and cover the gap that has emerged in the public finances, the windfall tax feels one of the least painful routes.